Elizabeth, X amount of time ago, I can't recall when, I asked you what are the downsides of being. Did I ask you that?
No, you asked me what the upsides were.
Well, I asked you what the upsides of being single was. Now,
Okay.
I'm asking you what are the downsides of being single. You can't have it all your way. You gotta shove up some honesty.
I get really sad sometimes that when I've had a really hard day at work and I'm coming home and I was just like, I would like someone to cook me a meal, please.
Yeah,
That'd be real nice.
Yeah, sure.
And cuddling. I miss cuddling. Just like, just like watching a show and cuddling. I miss that. Everything else can get fucked, really. Like,
So just a couple of little niceties you would
just
be nice.
little bits and bobs, like, look.
Look, guys.
It's difficult because I say this to my family. I've said this to my family recently. I'm like, it's quite hard because when you don't have a partner, like, so you're supposed to put yourself first in your life and then you put your partner second to your own mental health. So that means at best I am third in everybody's lives in my family. At best.
Yes, Liz at best will be.
And every now and then when that thought hits me, I go, oh, that sucks.
Sorry, Liz, but I had to flip the script and ask for
What do
some
you
honesty.
not like about being in a relationship, Tom?
What do you not like about being in a relationship? There's stacks. The minute the time to yourself where you're like social, where you're totally not, you're sort of off the grid.
That's
in
really
the
good.
relationship.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Where you're not. Your time isn't being monitored by anyone else, by anyone else's schedule.
You can bed rot
or
for a
needs.
whole day.
Oh, the
Two, if
chance,
you like.
the chance. So yeah, so that the sort of the stress of caring for someone. Like every day they get into the car, right? And my little heart is just going, please come, just get home safe. Just please.
It's really cute and sad.
It's kind of, yeah.
Like it's not sad. It's cute. It's heartwarming, breaking.
Yeah, it's a weird fucking thing to whinge about because you're like, oh, woe is me. I've got someone I care about.
I've got someone to care about.
But
my life is so hard.
I'm trying to examine every angle of it. So yes, in the interest of equality and fairness, pros and cons of singlehood, pros and cons of being in a relationship. We try and touch it all here in Ghosts of Boyfriends Past. Hello one, hello all. Thomas Harris with you to give you my full title, across from Elizabeth Best. Here on a main-sode episode.
That's what it is now.
Love
it's a
it,
main-sode.
of Ghosts of Boyfriends Past. Bit of a wrinkly one, this one today.
Ooh, rude.
Rude. Well, it's a little left field. A little bit. Oh my god. Oh my god.
How could you? I'm just pointing because we also have Zane C. Weber on mic this week.
I'm always forgotten about.
Okay,
And
okay.
the reason why I was so offended that this episode he said was wrinkly is because it involves me.
It does, and it's not a straightforward relationship story. This one, I think you would give me right. It's not.
No,
not
it's a
particularly
relationship,
straightforward.
but not the dating kind.
It's not the kind that we've been used to on this show. Is probably what I'm angling at. So.
We're talking to Liz today, and so that's why I'm here.
Hi.
But not just Liz alone.
No.
We've kept our mysterious fourth quiet for a while. Should we introduce them, Liz? Do you want to?
Yeah, I
do you wanna
will.
do this?
Everybody, this is Pete.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
Pete is
I've been here the whole time.
every episode since 4 years ago. Pete's been sitting in the corner waiting for his moment.
Well, look, up until now, I didn't feel qualified to comment.
He wasn't called upon. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so look, I don't know when this is going to air. I haven't decided yet, and because I am in charge of the podcast, I get to decide
Yeah,
when it
it's
comes
nebulous. This could come out in 10 years' time. It could
But I
come out
wanted
tomorrow.
to kind of talk about this while I was still in a space too. So Peter, who Pete is to me, is one of my very best friends in the world, and also my sperm donor, because I have been trying for the last 3 years to have a baby. And as everybody knows, I am famously single because fuck dating.
Yes.
And I decided to do it myself. And so I thought it would be an interesting episode to get Pete on the podcast and talk about the ridiculousness that has been this journey.
No, look, I think that's all pretty straightforward. What I want to really focus on is like, you say one of your very best friends. Now, you're number one. Any potential partner's number two.
Yes.
Yeah.
From 3 to infinity, where does Pete sit there?
Oh, like honestly, top 5.
Oh,
Ooh.
top five.
Nah, that's.
You don't
that's not
reckon you should be
correct.
top 5?
Oh,
Or you think
I'm
you
just
should be
thinking
higher?
there's an imbalance here.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not cracking top 10. I mean, I've got mates. I got actual friends and stuff.
I
but-
need him for something, so that's why I
Yeah,
have to
absolutely.
flatter
yeah,
him.
yeah, that's
Right.
and
You
we
have to
know,
protect
and this
him
is
for
fine. It's
purpose.
part of the dance.
Yeah.
Part of that wonderful dance of
Well,
trying to be a sperm donor.
You have to say, oh, he's one of my he's a dear and a close friend. You can't just be like, oh, he's a bloke I know. We used to work together.
We did used to work together,
Yeah.
but yes.
Yeah.
It's not inaccurate.
No.
And you've grown, over the years, you've grown somewhat close, it to be determined, somewhat closer.
Well,
Enough
apparently there's an imbalance.
to.
Oh, I don't walk around with a ranking in my head of who my closest
No,
friends
but
are.
at this point in time in my life, because of the importance of what I am going through right now, you crack top 5 because of the importance of what your donation is going to mean to me if it works.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm just a regular dude
Who
living his
just
life.
did a cup.
He's
I just
trying to get
do
along.
what I'm told.
So I guess where would you want to start with this one, Liz? Do you want to start with like the decision?
Does it start with Liz
of
by
why,
herself?
or
So-
the decision of who?
As
Okay, well, look, we'll go back to we used
She's going to open in media res.
so Pete and I did used to work together, Jeans West, Stones Corner.
But it wasn't one of your fancy jeans West.
No, it was
factory
the
outlet.
factory outlet where
man.
we
Yeah, man.
three pairs of jeans for $20. Can you imagine? 3 for 20
love it.
Wow.
back in the day. And initially Pete and I, we were friends, and then did we hook up before or after I broke up with? I think we hooked up before and then properly after.
At the time, like when we
we
very first
made out.
met, you were classified as like not a person to hit on because
We worked together.
A, we worked together,
And I'm
B,
really
you were
cool.
my mate's mate, and B, you were with someone when I first met you.
Actually,
it's like-
no, we made out just before, like literally a week before I started dating my long-term boyfriend.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, at the Red Room at UQ.
Oh, yep. That's,
Oh, look, I made out with a lot of people at the Red Room.
if it happened, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't count if it's at the Red Room, apparently.
I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah. Okay. So what Pete originally was to me was he was my friend, and he was also the guy that I would call when I broke up with somebody.
Yeah, so a good confidant, a good.
We'd go out, we'd have some wines, and occasionally we'd sleep together. Sometimes Pete would cook for me because he's a very good cook. And that was sort of the start of our friendship. But I just had such good convo with you that I wanted to keep you around rather than just being a hit it and quit it kind of thing. And I remember after one breakup, he gave me this book on philosophy that I have read many times since then. And I just like we got on the same level. And so I think, gosh, like when I came to deciding what I wanted to do, you know, I was getting to my late 30s. I wanted to have a child, and I just thought about people in my life who, you know, had good genetics, really.
That's
Sorry.
So that's your first.
Yeah,
you
I was
decide
just
I
like-
want to have a baby. I need a sperm donor.
Well, I didn't, because
Genetics
let
is
me
first.
tell you a little thing about sperm donation in Queensland. So there's 8 donors, or at least when I started this journey, there were 8.
When we're done, I might be number 8, but there was 7. I remember.
Oh,
that
okay.
conversation.
Okay,
Yeah.
there were 7. There are 7.
Yeah,
there are
right.
7.
I was option number 8.
Yeah. So, and a friend of mine had recently gone through the process to try and find a donor. And when you look up a donor, you have to go through this booklet of the characteristics, and every donor has to write down why you've decided to donate. And in Australia, it has to be altruistic. You don't get paid for any donation. So the book was full of these people going, well, my seed deserves to be spread pretty much fucking everywhere.
Okay.
Narcissism central. And I didn't want that. And so I
Can I ask it? I was just going to just a quick sidetrack there.
yeah.
What's an acceptable answer?
Yeah, I was
For
pondering that as well.
I mean, if it's not
Because
gonna
I
be
understand that women can have trouble, like for someone else. I want to give someone else the gift of a child if that is what they wish to do,
Okay.
but I myself do not wish to have children.
As the only person here who's actually written the thing.
You had to fill out the
Well,
application
yeah.
and yeah.
But quite cleverly, it wasn't until afterwards that I realized, the questions I was answering make up that thing.
Oh, so you didn't know that this was what was shared with.
Oh,
Yeah.
it should have occurred to me
Right,
if I'd
okay.
been thinking about that. But yeah, it wasn't until you were telling me later about how
Yeah.
grim some
It's
of those
grim.
responses were.
Well,
Mine was a bit spicy. It was along the lines of, well, I don't think anyone should be having kids, but it's a real shame that people who want it this badly can't.
yeah.
So if you want it this badly, then you should be able to have kids.
Yeah. Thank
yep,
you.
if you're willing to go to these lengths, then it should be fine.
So when I actually had a couple of friends, like I was going, I just don't know whether I'd buy because you can buy sperm for about $1,500 from the States. And I was like, well, like I'm sure I could find someone I know. And I had two different friends go, what about that Pete guy? And I was like, yeah, what about that Pete guy?
This is the first I'm hearing about that. That's an endorsement.
Yeah.
And depending on who the mates are,
Really good ones.
good for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so I had quite a few conversations with Emma, who's been on the podcast before, where she's like, just fucking ask him. And I'm like, I can't. I'm too scared. This is stupid. I hate you. I'm hanging up the phone now.
Because it's not asking someone for a $5. It's
No.
quite the...
It's huge.
Prof
For
thing
me,
you're
it was
proffering
anyway.
forward.
And so because, when like you've been umming and ahhing about something for so fucking long and you just go, I'm just going to do it just now. So middle of the workday, middle of my day at work, I literally went outside the building, standing outside the front of my work. And I called, I said, Pete, I sent him a text and I was like, hey, do you have time to talk? We're not phone friends. We are text friends.
The only reason I answered was because you were calling me in the middle of the day.
Yeah, because I said, do you have 5 minutes to talk about something?
It's like, the world is burning down, so I guess I should answer Liz.
Yeah, well,
Do you remember how I answered the phone?
I 100% remember how you answered, but I think I want to edit some of it out.
Sure.
Basically, no, well, okay. I'm not going to edit any of it out. This is who I am. Okay, so I said, hi, I've got, it's a bit weird. I have something that I have to ask you. And he's like, you either want drugs or sperm.
Or a green card.
Or a
Yes.
Because I was doing a bit. Because I was like, I know you don't need a green card. Oh, maybe you're asking me to be a sperm donor. Or like you need to find a guy who was like, I need, a big bag of drugs, please and thank you. It was
Well,
like,
also-
haha, what a funny joke I was doing.
Yeah, hilarious. But also, like, I have used Pete before. Like, I had a spare spot at a wedding because I'd gotten dumped just before a wedding and had taken Peter as my date. And basically, because all of these people knew the ex who'd broken up with me, Pete's like, so what do you want to call me? Are we going to call me the paramour? Let's make it spicy. Let's make everyone jealous.
I refused to do it unless there was some
You
kind
committed.
of thing. I was like, oh, I'm just a kept man. I've been here the whole time.
It was great. It was so great. I still work with some of the people that were at that wedding.
No, fantastic.
But yeah,
if
you did-
you're not getting money for it, if you're not getting paid for it in any other way, you may as well make a bit of fun out of it.
Yeah.
Weddings are the best to begin with, let alone in the knowledge that I've got someone who has to go along with whatever
Yes,
fib I
yes.
come up with.
Yeah, but he was so fucking good. Like, all of the other husbands were being lazy assholes, and he was like, drink, ladies, can I get anything for you? And I was like, yeah.
Good.
And
man.
I only have to remember these people's names. These people's names for like one night.
Yeah,
I never have to do it again.
No.
I can do it for one
it
night.
was great.
So what I'm hearing is that you were auditioning for a long time before it happened.
Well, funnily,
Oh.
yes, and completely by accident and passively. But yeah, I've been auditioning my whole life.
Yeah.
So your phone goes off on a work day, midday, and Liz on the other side says, hello, my friend. I would like... How do you pose the question,
Here's a
Liz?
cup.
Yeah.
Well, I just went, yeah, because he literally
I
said
guessed
you
it,
either
yeah.
want,
you want
know,
drugs or sperm?
It was a real mathematician's answer. So I was like, that's a technically correct but
Yes.
completely useless answer. So which one is it?
yeah, I was just like, well, yeah, I want a baby, and I wondered whether you would help. And then I said, okay, the one thing I remember from that phone call, other than the start of it, was that I said, okay, but if we do this, we can't sleep together anymore. It needs to be transactional. And you said, Elizabeth, all sex with me is transactional.
Very, very cool.
And you know what? I was throwing you a bone there because really I could have been quite mean to you
could
in
have
that
been.
moment about the transactional nature of our relationship.
Yeah, you could have. Thank you so much for that.
And
But
then
yeah.
Small things.
I was so nervous, but you just kind of said, like, pending some discussions on legalities and whatnot. Yes, I'm open to this, which
So
I
how-
just got off the phone and cried, actually.
How far into the process was this decision happening? Like, did you know it was going to happen pending a donor, an appropriate donor, or were you still kind of like, if I find an appropriate donor,
I
then we'll get serious?
had decided at that point that was the road I was going down,
Yeah.
because I did not want to make a stupid dating decision and be tied to somebody who I thought was a dipshit for the rest of my life, just because I wanted to have a baby. And so, yeah, it was. I was thrilled that Pete said yes, but I would have gone ahead and found a donor had he said no.
And Peter, I want to know, when you're first asked that, when you're first processing it, the minutes afterwards, what are you thinking? Are you proud? Oh my God, someone's asked me. Are you cocky? Do you introspective? Where does it take you?
There's no scenario where it's not flattering.
Right.
I mean, I've got a lot of friends who have kids, and they've had kids with their partner who they've been with for quite some time, and they planned it, or maybe it wasn't, but they were still with a partner they were with for some time.
Sure.
And this, because it was that bit more transactional and formal, it's literally someone saying, hello, I'd like to do some paperwork about how I think you're a good genetic specimen.
Yes.
Functionally. It was like, oh, well, that's nice. That's nice. Also, I knew you wanted a kid. But the more important thing was, because we'd known each other for so long, there was a whole bunch of givens for me. One was, I knew that Liz actively doesn't want me involved in the raising or philosophical influence on this child. And on the other part, I knew that she wouldn't ask me if she thought I did.
Yeah.
So there was this already a whole, I'm pretty sure we're on the same page. Let's just have your people talk to my people and let the eggheads in legal sort out the paperwork. But yeah, there's a lot of people I know who, if they asked me, I would not have had the same reaction.
Oh.
Had you ever considered it prior, in that kind of egotistical, narcissistic way, just kind of like, yeah, I personally, so this, I'm speaking as you here. So you said, I don't believe people should have kids, but if they really want kids, then they should have that option. Had you ever considered it prior to this question being?
I had, as a kid growing up, I'd always thought of kids as the logical next thing, the way everyone does.
Yeah.
As a young man, I never imagined myself, not doing that traditional nuclear family thing just because whatever. And then it wasn't even anything to do with kids. It was just in my 20s, I became so much more comfortable with the idea of being single and enjoying my own company. By the time my 30s rolled around, I'd spent some time working at special care nurseries and neonatal intensive care in another life.
Yeah.
And I was fine. But at the same time, my sister had a complicated pregnancy and she had twin girls who were...
You became aware of the
Momo twins. And
difficulties.
They were on my ward and I was like, oh, wow. This is two healthy people who chose to have a kid, who are financially stable, and they rolled that dice and they still ended up with a really complicated outcome.
Yeah.
What if you weren't that committed and you still got the complicated outcome? That was the thing that nudged me off the fence. Of thinking, not the worst thing in the world. Plus, I have two perfectly healthy twin nieces now.
Yep.
Too healthy, in fact. Too really
healthy.
hard to keep up. And a nephew as well. And having them around is great. It scratches the itch of, hey, I've got kids that are in the family, and everyone's happy. My friends have kids, and I like hanging out with their kids because I can leave whenever I want to.
Yes.
And the older I got, the more I realized, I was never cut out for this. I'm just glad that I put it off, made my own informed decision.
Yep.
Having said that, I know I'm in the minority apparently, or at the very least, by the time people have kids, they kind of have to buy into that, oh, kids are so magical kind of vibe.
Yes, it's an 18-year commitment
Yeah.
that you have to commit to.
Yeah, you
I
don't,
love these fucking kids.
you don't want to admit like you bought property in a bad neighborhood kind of
Yeah.
thing. It was like, well, yeah, it's just so, you get to watch them grow up.
Yeah, that's the bit I don't want. I want a baby. As soon as they get to be a teenager,
And this
goodbye.
is why I said just, and this was the other thing. A thing I think that put us both at ease about it was we really gnawed to the bone the philosophical, just get a dog.
Yeah.
You want a kid so
Yeah.
bad? Just get a dog. Just go to the RSPCA, get the oldest dog they have, and give it a great life. And then it gets a big green needle, and you just go and get a new old dog. And a bit weird when you break it down like that. But what I meant was, if you don't want a housemate that won't pay rent and will hate you for 18 years, and maybe they're a serial killer, then hey, have a kid.
Yeah.
Follow your heart.
Also the poop.
The poop.
It's everywhere.
Oh, I said to my brother confidently, my nephew needed to go to the toilet. I was like, I'll handle this one. And then I literally had to call him in. I was like, I cannot handle this one this weekend.
Oh, my mind
did
was
it
made
badly.
up, but I once changed 2 nappies simultaneously.
Oh, Jesus.
It was like that scene at the end of Whiplash.
Some kind of Superman.
Just sweat pouring off my head.
Liz, when you put the, I know you, I think you would have built up quite the ball of anxiety, stress about asking Peter if
Yeah.
I'm correct, and you ask him, right?
Yeah.
You don't get a response straight away. After you put that question to him and out into it becomes real in the
Yep.
universe. What do you like at that point once you've asked?
I felt really relieved
Yeah.
just to have even asked. And I got a yes with some let's talk about it as long as the legalities line up. And so I kind of was like, fuck yes. Like, and I don't know if how much anybody knows about the Australian known sperm donor process, but you have to go through therapy. We had to do one session each and then one together. And one thing that I remember is that we had talked about it on such a granular level that by the time it came to therapy, she was like, wow, you guys have this shit like that like we kind of choose your own adventure every fucking scenario to the point where like even knowing that there's no way on God's green earth that Pete's going to turn around and go, I want to be a dad. We've got a back door in our contract that just in case he has a personality transplant, we'll talk about it. You know, we've got every single possible scenario we talked through, and the therapist was like, you guys are really well adjusted about this. And I was like, yeah, as we should be. And she's like, oh no, people sometimes just meet people on Gumtree and then bring them to the therapy and are like, yeah, cool.
Yeah. That's,
Do you remember she said
That's
that?
still more thought out than 40% of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
family histories of people I work with.
Yeah. And then you had to go through a whole bunch of like blood tests and sperm tests and whatnot as well.
That was an interesting part for me as someone who actively didn't want kids, or was
Yeah.
a big proponent of, safe sex. Why would you even accidentally want kids? Kind of weird. I had done the maths on, do I get a vasectomy or do I just, wait until I'm ejaculating dust after a
Thanks for
certain age?
not.
But it was funny because even as someone who philosophically has chewed that to the bone, the only time I ever had a little bit of anxiety in this whole process was when I'd done the first round of testing and was coming back to find out if I was fertile. And
It's
it was weird
fucking
because
nerve-wracking, hey?
on one level,
even if you don't
I
want it.
don't care.
Yeah.
yeah, and it doesn't matter
But
to
it
you.
would've-
Yeah,
But you
right.
still,
It would
I mean,
have
at some point you still want
retroactively-
A+ sperm, right?
Oh, I mean, for Liz, yeah. If they had come back and said, oh no, you've been shooting blanks your whole life, it would have been like, well, nothing changes for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the finding out was I don't actually know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter for me, but Christ, imagine if it did. You would be you'd be having a bad time.
Oh, dude, I've had a bad time through so much of this. That would have been nothing.
Well, it's not a competition.
Yeah.
Because you'll win every
Yeah.
round. Congratulations.
I think I would like to like focus a little bit more on that medical side of things, because this is something that I don't know a lot about. Like, so you went to the therapy, they were like gold star, both of you.
Oh, dude, I was in tears by the end of the
And
therapy
the
session.
therapy was actually probably the third or fourth appointment, I guess, that I was
Yeah.
involved with.
Yeah.
There was going and having
to-
bloods taken.
You had to
and
have
then-
bloods, you had to pee in a cup, you had to jizz in a cup, and then one therapy session for you. Then my therapy session was, I'd already done all this fertility stuff because when I broke up with my last ex, was like, check all the fertility stuff so I know how long I have before I need to panic. So yeah, but I still remember at the end of that therapy session, you said, this is probably the best thing that I will ever do. And then I burst into tears.
Oh,
Oh, that's very sweet.
It was really nice.
Yeah, contextually, that's not the sweet thing you think it is. It's just like,
You're like, I'm up myself. And
no,
I'm great.
no, more of like a morally dubious pirate
Yeah.
being like, well, I didn't kill the survivors of that one ship.
Don't take it away from me. That was a
Let
really
it-
lovely moment for me.
Let her have it. Peter, how long did it? How long of a soul search did it take you before you said gave a committed, solid yes?
Honestly, it was immediate with an asterisk. It was just like,
As long as the
Then I had a really good contract drawn up because I know he's a details guy. So
Hmm.
I literally went to a lawyer friend of mine and was like, what are all the things that I need to put? And another thing that you might find interesting is that preconception contracts are not legally binding in any way, shape, or form. But should something happen where we suddenly fucking hate each other, it gives the courts an idea
Yeah,
of what the
right.
original intent was.
Yep.
So I put as much fucking detail into that as possible so that when I handed it over to you, you'd be like, great, we've thought of everything. And we signed it at a fucking bar with your bartender mate as the witness.
that's right. He's still the manager there. I'll have to give him a heads up when the podcast is airing. Shout out to Conrad.
So a very quick decision on your behalf. I'm just trying to put myself in those shoes, and I want, and it's like, how much time can you how much time can you afford to soul search about it?
Although-
how much time can you keep them waiting? Well, give me 6 months to think about it. Like, I don't know. You'd want to arrive at a decision, yes or no, quite quickly, quite firmly. But I don't know how much time we're allowed to have to, if someone asks me or you.
I've
Yeah.
had friends who've asked their sperm donor and they're like, yeah, in theory, but they've kept them waiting about 4 or 5 months for a definitive yes. So they're kind of in limbo.
And it's a long time when you're trying to, or
Well, you're on a clock. Your
Yeah.
body is quite literally on a fucking clock.
Well, and for a woman of your advanced years,
Fuck
it's
you.
like-
Fuck
says-
Gee whiz.
you.
Lord.
You are not that much younger than me, my friend.
Now we do have a rule about no threats on mic.
We do, but that rule is out
we're-
the fucking window, Pete. You and I outside.
I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
talking over this. Good Lord. Where were we? Yes, for
yeah.
time.
Where are we now?
Well, initially I was going to go straight into IVF, but then a nurse friend of mine was like, but what if you could save money and just do it yourself at home with a turkey baster? And I was like, oh, I'm too scared. And she's like, I'll help you.
It's nice to have good friends.
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
friend of the podcast, Carly.
Yes.
frequent guest and only person other than a doctor who has seen my cervix.
well,
Wow. What an honor that must be.
Well, like actively looked at it, Peter.
No, that's not what I was piping up at. What I was thinking of was, in hindsight, I remember when you first told me, when she was like, we'll do the home job with the turkey baster.
Yeah.
And I love a deal more than
Right.
anything.
Yes, Mr.
I am the
Thrifty.
most frugal dude on the planet. And in hindsight, I can't blame you for doing it. I just wish that, maybe we'd done a little bit more research about.
Well, I did a fuckload of research, but what I didn't.
Oh, I wish I'd done more research. Not you. You did all the research. Yeah.
Okay. Because we decided, and the first time that we did it, we're like, okay, what do we need to do here? Okay, he needs to jizz in a cup, and I've got to keep it warm until I get home. And so, because Peter lives in an apartment block, we met outside Aldi.
Yeah.
Good, different.
Neutral ground.
Just catch the
To
lift
do the-
straight down to the Aldi car park.
To do the dodgiest looking fucking, like he's like, okay, I'm coming downstairs now. Carly and I had been sitting there waiting, knowing exactly what's happening upstairs. And so he just pulls it out of his pocket, and because the warmest place to keep this, I had been reliably told, was between your boobs.
Okay.
Because of
yep,
body
sure,
warmth.
okay.
So the first thing I did is just grab this cup of jizz, chuck it down my boobs, and then go to the car park. And anyone who was looking must have just been like, they're totally doing a drug deal, right? Like they're 100%.
But it would have been like the Christopher Nolan's Tenet of drug
Yeah,
dealing.
yeah.
Everything happens in the reverse order that it should.
Yes, exactly.
What
Exactly.
an awkward police frisk that would have been.
Yeah. Ma'am,
Oh.
can you explain
Because
this?
we were on the clock too,
Yeah.
because you have to get that
you
stuff home.
You think that's a bad one? So from my perspective, I know I've got a lunchtime engagement, but I'll be at work. I might be on a phone call. I might be in the middle of a Teams
Yes,
meeting.
so the first one was at night, but then once we got into the so-called rhythm of things, we'd do it at lunchtime because I lived 6 minutes from you at that time. So I could be like, I'm leaving now and only have to wait a couple of minutes by
Yeah,
the
TikTok.
time I got there.
But my instructions to Liz were just let me know when you're leaving home. I don't know how long that'll take. But I could be, in the middle of my day
I don't want to hear it. No, I don't want to hear about
I'm
it.
doing big
Come on.
spreadsheets and I'm pressing my buttons and then I get this text message. I'm like, oh, sorry guys, I'm going to take coffee in
I have
about
a
5 minutes.
Yeah, I've got a medical
And then
thing.
just, time to
Here we go.
emotionlessly masturbate into a cup on a time limit.
I have 6 minutes.
And then talking about the police frisk, I then have to, I
You
don't
you
get to
have no
enjoy an
idea.
afterglow. I have to put it into its little specimen container and then put that in the pocket of my pants and then catch the lift down with my neighbors
Yep.
and just sharing a lift with someone while you're still a little bit flushed and you're like,
How's your day? Yeah, all the
Yeah.
small talk. Fantastic.
hey, you got a cigarette?
That's right.
There are two stories that I remember most from this time that just had me tearing up with laughter. Is one of them where I actually came, like, you're like, hey, you were like, come upstairs and hang out and then we'll do the thing. And then, I was like, oh, because normally I wait downstairs. And I was like, is it not weirder if I'm upstairs in your apartment? Well, and he's like, no, it's fine. So
Literally, I was like 5 minutes in and out.
yeah,
Come on, how are we going to be?
But we were going to watch some YouTube stuff and you were going to show me some accent work and blah, blah, blah. So we were watching the YouTubes and then he's like, all right, I'll go. And right when he closed the bathroom door, his flatmate came home and saw this strange person who she has never met sitting in the lounge room. And she's like, I was like, hey, I'm a friend of Pete's. And she was like, okay, cool. Where's Pete? And I was like, toilet. And she's like, okay, cool. But then when Pete came out, he comes out with a brown paper bag and I say, how'd you go?
Did you get it all?
And he hands me the paper bag and I leave
Even
it. She's
in
just
context, it's not great.
Yeah, he's right.
Because
like if she'd been...
coming out with the bag, you know how it went. I wouldn't have had a bag otherwise.
No,
Did
but
you have
like
fun?
for her, like she was like, he's in the toilet, and I'm asking him, "How did you go in the toilet?" And the other one was that time that you were super late
Oh my God.
because I had said I'm leaving, and you're like, okay. And do you remember the one that I'm talking about with the friends?
I was going to say this. I'll leave the details until the end, but this was on you.
Okay. Yeah. No,
was
no.
like,
I want you to tell the story.
It's meant
So
to be in a cup, guys.
It's you guys know the dynamic. I get the message. I'm on the clock. That's cool.
Well, because when you're doing it at home, right, you pee on a stick and you get a little frowny face, you get a normal face, or you get a happy face. And the happy face is you've got literally 12 hours.
Right
Yes.
now.
You've
Get
got
on that.
literally 12 hours.
TikTok.
And it gives you an ideal time of day. So I'm like, it's got to be in the next 3 hours, And so I was like, it's now. And Pete,
Good thing I have flexible work arrangements, but I had the day off this day.
Yeah.
I was like, how good. I've got a mate coming over for lunch later, but that's fine because it's later on and Liz has given me a window. Mm-hmm. She's just pushed the window back a little bit. No, that's fine. I can still make this work. I'll just make sure that my mate knows, hey, let me know when you're on the way. So that way I know when he's on the way. And look, worst comes to worst, I say to Liz, you had your chance, you blew it. This is like the one time
the one
where
time I say
will,
no. Yep.
yeah. So I'm spinning a plate over here. I'm spinning a plate over here, and both of them fibbed in the worst way. Where Liz said, "Oh, I'm just on my way," and she was a little bit later than she should have been. And my mate didn't tell me that he was arriving. So about the about 5 minutes before I get the text from Liz saying, cool, I'm going to be downstairs in 10. My mate just turns up impromptu. Buzz at the apartment, is like, hey, what's up? Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't tell you I was coming. I got a bottle of wine and we're going to have some cheese and do a thing. I was like, cool, man.
Real inconvenient
I just
time.
let me just wrap up some work stuff.
In the bathroom?
I got away with it, but I just basically had to say to him, I'm making a confidential work call in my room.
But you said at the time that you had a couple of friends coming over, so you would try, and you kept on getting people blowing up the group chat saying, I'm here, and you're like, I'm not
it really
ready
takes you
yet.
out of the. I already did not have my mind on the prize.
No.
Like, eye on the prize, mind in the game.
hand on the, I don't know.
Hand on the
tiller.
Wheel?
Yeah. And yeah, that's nothing more distracting than being like, well, I wonder if that's my friend who is outside
Yeah.
or another friend who is arriving downstairs that I have to attend to. I was like, oh, but I can't be a good host until I've dropped off this little specimen container of.
Thank you. I put you through so much.
So a potential cavalcade of comedy when going about donating the old sperm. Peter, what do your friends, your family think of you doing this? Do they view you as noble? Do they view how are you received? From
Are they
people?
aware?
Are they
I mean,
aware?
people
Do you
told.
talk about it? Are you,
Yeah, I didn't keep it a secret from family and friends. It was more of a.
Just like in the moment, you didn't say, hey, Liz is
Hey,
coming
you
over.
need to go.
I'm not one to tell people in advance because there's always a chance that that'll never happen.
Yeah.
But on a long enough timeline, it would be weird to not say it. So it's balancing that. So
But we made sure that, like, we had a big chat about, are we telling your family? When do you want to tell your family?
Oh, yeah.
Do your family want to be involved if something happens and you not? Like, we had to have all those conversations.
and I always knew the outcome would be the same. Is that my sister wouldn't understand it in the nicest way. My dad just kind of wouldn't care, and my mum would misunderstand the situation. No one really cares. Big picture, it's not a big deal with my family.
And it's been so many years it's been nearly 3 years since we started, so they've probably all forgotten.
Oh, every now and then I'll just be like, oh yeah,
Still going.
still going, not doing anything exotic. But
Yeah.
no, with my friends, it's an interesting one because my friends who don't have kids are of the same ilk of me. They 100% don't want kids on purpose. A lot of them work in healthcare or a lot of them work in education. They actually interact with children. They're making an informed decision. A lot of my friends who have kids, almost all of them are fantastic parents. As soon as I said that, I was like, that implies that someone isn't.
You know
Not what I
who
meant,
you
but I'm
are.
going to roll with it. A lot of them have a very antiquated sort of conception of what that means, where they just assume that I've made a mistake or been tricked into something, or it was like, what's going on? They can't understand the whole, well, but why would a single person want to help another single person have a kid? It was like, because not everyone is married to the first girl they kissed, and they don't have a nuclear family type life. She wants a kid. I can help her have a kid. It's like driving someone to the shops, except
So other than those kind of awkward kind of like, hey, why questions, there wasn't any like negative backlash or like awkward questions about your intentions or anything like that?
no, not at all. Mainly because of my well-known philosophical disposition to the pessimistic, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
More often than not, my friends were surprised by the fact that I agreed to it at all, because I'm not like an anti-natalist to the point I'm going to carry a sign. It's just more like, why would you get a husky in this climate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except 1,000 times more important morally and philosophically. But, kids are cool. Whatever. If they're around, my friend wants to have a kid, I'll help them out if I can. I just took the simplest sort of response to a lot of that.
Yeah.
I had one friend who really didn't get it, and I really didn't care because it's not my job to convince them. I'm pretty sure my mum is still convinced that when I hold a baby that has my eyes, oh, you'll want to be a dad. I was like, I'm pretty sure I want to give it back.
Yeah.
I was like, I've met my friends' kids before. I didn't care then. I'll care when I can have a conversation with them. It was like, ask them about what their favorite movies are. Then I'll get interested. It was like, give me a baby, I'll just give it back. But no, it was real easy to say yes. And I've had a very easy time of it, all things considered.
See that, like, all things considered, yeah, but like we basically did, and my doctor's like, hold on, it took me a little bit to find a specialist that I liked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first one was a bit of an asshole. The second one, I didn't like his bedside manner. Third one, amazing. So by the time I got to the third one, Pete and I had been trying artificial insemination for 16 months.
And look, let me put it out there. As a man, it's no great hardship.
But I feel like it is.
But
Like, it's such an imposition
Like
of his life.
a little bit. It's so the nuts and bolts of it from my perspective.
Sorry.
Okay, we've done so well, class.
sorry.
We've done really well. We've got
glad it
10
was
minutes
Liz that
left
broke.
to get through. Can we please just try and concentrate?
Sorry.
But all it boiled down to was you would be given a few days warning that you couldn't jack it for a week. And you would know that in 5 days' time, you're going to be on the clock. It was like maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but at some point you're going to get a message and you're going to jack it. It's just a bit weird. It's like, you know, having a super controlled diet or trying a different sleep schedule or something. It was just a bit,
Or a
this
really
thing-
weird TikTok challenge.
kind of. It didn't help that I'd been I was going to say a confirmed bachelor, but not what that means. I'd just been
An
like
established
a single
bachelor.
guy,
Yeah.
not dating for a really long time.
And
And
it's
then
some-
this coincided with me actually dating for the
Getting
first
a
time in
real
ages, and
girlfriend,
my
a
first
real
serious long-term relationship as well.
Oh,
And Liz,
man.
it's something Peter signed up for willingly. It wasn't, pardon the pun,
I-
thrust upon him. So it's like he knew what he was signing up for. So
I felt so awkward because there are times when I was like, it has to be now, but also only if it's convenient for you, but also it's really important for me, but only if it's convenient for you. Like, it was fucking hard. And I felt like I was imposing on you a lot. And my specialist was like, I would never have let you do that for 16 months. Obviously, if you have timed it out as well as you say you have, there's something wrong somewhere. And if Pete's been tested, it's probably with you,
Right.
which sucked.
yeah, it's tough to confront.
sucks.
I know that. I feel that.
Mm.
Liz, same question asked to Peter, but to you, what do your friends, what do your family members think of you when they hear that or learn that you are trying with a child with a donor from a friend?
They all just like, oh, he's really good to put up with it for this long.
Yeah.
They're like, why does he, why is he still in this? Like, he's really good to you. And I'm like, well, yes. But also for the IVF portion, he just had to jack it once for that. And I've used that for 3 rounds. So
So more.
I misunderstood the instructions. I've just been committed to the lifestyle for the last 3 years.
So would you?
But
so
like
more,
for those 16 months, he was on the clock, and I really felt like I was imposing on him. But a lot of my friends and family are like, "Isn't he great? Isn't he so selfless? Isn't that wonderful?" Why? I've also had a lot of, "But you guys used to sleep together, so do you think you'll end up together?" And I'm like, "No, I wouldn't have asked him to do this if that's what I thought." Like,
And as we've established, you had your chance. You blew it.
yeah. Look, Liz, fair.
Gave up
very
the keys
fair.
to a hot rod.
look. But there's a lot of people who, like you, just kind of think, oh, well, it'll start off and then, it'll be some. And I'm like, that's not what I'd envisaged. So there's a couple of people. I haven't had any negative. Most people are like, fucking well done you for doing it by yourself. You must be brave, exhausted, fucked up at the moment because it's taken so long. Like, well done you. But yeah, the overwhelming, it's either how great is Pete or good on you for me.
Yeah, interesting.
One that I've always wanted to ask, and now in the safety of the podcast,
Yes.
you have to answer me.
Okay.
Did you have many people like me who just tried to talk you out of it?
Not a
And
one.
convince you that it was really
Not a one.
just me?
Yeah.
I wanted. Do you have an inkling of where that need or that desire came from with these people to talk you out of it, save you? Where does that come from?
Oh no, I mean no one tried to talk me.
Oh,
out of
you
it.
said no one,
I
right.
tried to talk Liz out of it.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
Other
I just
than you,
assumed there
no.
would be.
I'd like to back that up a little bit because when you first told me, I asked you like,
You asked
hey,
me
why are you
questions.
doing this?
Yeah.
And like, well, what's the thought? I never said like, oh, you shouldn't. I don't
Yeah.
think you should do this. But it's definitely like,
And
I
in all
questioned-
fairness, you were probably diplomatic in your phrasing.
yeah, that I am known to be.
So diplomatic that I didn't even get that you were questioning me in that way.
Because I was like, okay, it's a big call. So I just wanted to make sure that you're in like the right frame of mind about it, which you were, like, obviously.
I had thought about it for so many years, and I think the only time that I've second guessed myself is in how fucking difficult IVF has been. Because I've done, and half the reason I wanted to record this now is because I am in a period where I have done 3 cycles of egg retrieval. I'm doing a thing called hormonal downregulation to kind of ready my body for an implantation. And I have 2 shots at this, right?
Yeah.
We ended up with 2 embryos from 3 rounds, which was really tough because, like, you start out with, like, I go into the egg retrieval, I wake up, they're like, you've got 10 eggs. And I'm like, great. That sounds like a really good amount, 10 eggs. And so they say, look, some of them we may have to do this thing called ICSI, which is where they inject the sperm into the egg if they're not swimming. We didn't have to do that. Every single round, his swimmers did their job.
High caliber ammo, baby.
Yeah.
A+ sperm.
A+ sperm. So they'd come back the next day and there'd be like 9 implanted. Great. We didn't have to pay the extra $1,500 for ICSI. It was so expensive. And then on day 3, they were like, yep, 8. You've got 8. They're still doing great. And then on day 5, they'd be like, you've got 2 left. And I didn't know the first time around to pretty much ignore all of the numbers until you get to day 5. So that first time was fucking devastating. And then they go through a process of genetic testing, which is an elective, and I have decided to do it because when people are in their 30s, the egg quality can lead to some genetic defects, which would either lead my body to just yeet it straight out and go, nope, this is not viable. If I ever write a book about this, I'm going to call it My Uterus and I, because that's pretty much what
Oh, that's good.
my uterus has been doing. Copyright. Thank you so much. Because, like, again, during the artificial insemination process, I had 3 positive pregnancy tests, which I thought were false positives because I got my period exactly when I was supposed to. But my new specialist was like, oh, honey, they were almost certainly sperm met egg chemical pregnancy, but I have something called adenomyosis, which is where the uterine lining is much thicker than it should be for someone who hasn't had children. So basically my uterus literally was yeeting them out. Like, they're just going, no, thank you. This is no home for you. It's called, in the medical world, it's called a hostile uterus.
Yes, very fun.
Which matches with my personality. So well done.
Oh, darling.
And so the first round we did the genetic testing. Oh, there's so much. We could have 2 episodes of this. In fact, how long have we been going
We might
for?
need to.
We've been going for just over 45 minutes now.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take a pause now, and I reckon we go into another episode of this. And Pete, are you happy to stick around for a second ep?
Well, I did bring all of my blood work. So
Oh, fabulous.
I assume if
We've
we're
got to
going
go
broach
through all
the
of that.
genetic
Yeah,
side of the
perfect.
discussion, yes, of
Perfect.
course.
Okay. So this is part 1 of my IVF journey with Pete. Thank you so much for coming in for this episode, and we look forward to chatting with you the next episode.
I'm only here because I'm getting paid.
Oh, God, who's paying him?
Yeah,
I didn't agree to that.
so, more to come. Do you read
No.
No?
Sorry, my mind just went straight to the gutter. I am actually a 16-year-old trapped in a 30-something's body. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can write to ghostofboyfriendspast@gmail.com or go to that'snotcanon.com/ghostofboyfriendspast and fill out a form. If you want to talk about your IVF journey, please get in contact. I'm more than happy to hear all sorts of different stories, because the whole point of this podcast is to normalize what's going on in people's lives so they know what to expect when shit happens, when breakups happen, when trying to have a baby happens. That's like, it's and all types of relationships is what we're about here. Tom, anything you want to say before we go?
No, just thank you for your attention as always, readers. It's an important issue, this one. It's an important topic, so thanks for sticking with us. We're going to cover more in part 2, so we'll see you then sometime in the future.
Oh.
Okay, just hit the button.
we're done now.
Just press the...
End the episode. Dear God, saying, please play music.